Welcome, one and all, to a quick trash guide tip video. Or this is a video because, I perhaps forgot to mention it in the original trash guide. But again, this is a custom tip that has something specifically to do with explaining part of the guide. So even though I explained the guide in the trash guide video and custom formats and notifier, I wasn't able to touch upon just a few important things here. So if you take a look at this part of the trash guide where it's explaining, okay, quality profiles. Do you want to just combine it all into a single profile to, for example, upgrade from 1080p to 4K and the same profile here? Instead of upgrade until Blu-ray, you could have upgrade until Remux or Blu-ray 2160. So you could definitely combine these profiles. So there's two types. There's obviously HD Blu-ray plus web. And so what is, the logic on this one is, and I really do like when it mentions the logic of these things. So, workflow logic. When the web 1080p is released, it will download that. When the Blu-ray is released, it will upgrade to the Blu-ray. And then the downloaded media will be upgraded to any of the added custom formats until a score of 10,000. 10,000 is just an arbitrary number. You could choose 1,000,000. Why is such a high number? It's because he's just trying to max out. You want the best quality, set it to 10,000, because all the sums of the custom format scores that are under the profiles. So for example, on this 1080p one, see all these format scores, custom format scores to narrow down the types of Blu-ray groups and things of this nature won't add up to, they'll probably add up to 10,000, but that means you're probably with the best file that you can possibly get. But the most interesting part about this isn't, just to do Blu-ray or just to do HD Blu-ray and web or just Blu-ray and web, or, you could theoretically even do, you could just combine all of them. You could do HD Blu-ray, web 2160, Blu-ray 2160 in case you really want to upgrade constantly, though that might be a little too much, but give or take, if that's the kind of workflow path you want. So if you say, hey, I want one that's a web, that's then HD Blu-ray, but then if there's a 2160 web that comes out later, I wanted to grab that and keep going until quality is, HD, Ultra HD Blu-ray, right? You can do that. But the interesting part that for me is where it talks about the logic. So pay attention here. Quality trumps all. Quality. Over custom format score, and obviously these things, size is the least of the concerns according to, what you want to aspire for. You don't care. Sizes will be similar across releases, so that's not really going to be a distinguishing factor. But really, quality is the quality that you choose, whether it's 1080p, right? If you go into Blu-ray 1080p like this. So if something is, higher quality, let's say you have 1080p over 720p, it won't try to go for 720p at all if a 1080p exists. So, but the most interesting part is it's not just the quality that trumps all, but what I really think is more specific is this one, where in the trash guide, what he does is he check marks the selected ones and he drags them all the way to the top. See that? See how 1080 and 720 has been dragged above raw HD, Blu-ray disc, Remux, Blu-ray 2160p. And when I first read this, it really confused me because it's saying the order listed in the profile matters even if it's not checked. For example, if you have a 1080p version, but wanted the SD version, Radarr will reject all SD results because 1080p is listed higher than SD, even though 1080p was not checked. Qualities higher in the list are more preferred even if not checked. Qualities within the same group are equal. Only checked qualities are wanted. So this makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't know if it's just me, but I wanted to really explain what this thing means because it's very confusing. So pretend for a second, if you will. Let me head over to my Radarr here. You can see I kind of did the same thing on trash. I dragged all the 1080p's up here, right? But really what it's saying is let's pretend we bring it back down, right? Let's say we do 1080p back where it belongs, right? Next to under Remux. Let's bring the web under Blu-ray, but over HDTV. Let's bring web 720p there, and let's bring 720p Blu-ray above web, and let's bring HDTV down. So this is pretty much what it looks like, right? And so you're probably wondering, well, why can't I just leave it like this? And this is what I was wondering. You absolutely can leave it like this. And in fact, that would be my suggestion. That is truly my suggestion because I was confused. I was like, so are you saying so by this thing, it says if you have a 1080p version but wanted SD, Radarr would reject all SD results because 1080p is listed higher, even though it's not checked. So if I had, let's say, SD TV checked, but there's a Blu-ray copy of the show, it won't grab what I want. It's really confusing. So what it's saying actually is, and I wish this was distinguished a bit better, is that if in your library, in your current library, you have a 1080p copy and you're asking Radarr to grab an SD TV copy and 1080p is listed higher, right? Let's say you have a web 1080p, but it's higher and it's uncheck marked. Then what they're saying is, well, Radarr won't erase your existing file. It won't get rid of it and downgrade it. It will never downgrade. Remember, quality trumps all is the workflow logic that Trash provides from the Radarr team. So quality trumps all. But again, what does quality mean? Right? What does that mean? So again, quality doesn't mean the name that you have here. It means whatever you have check marked here in this group or uncheck marked. So even if it's not check marked, let's say I do it like this. And I go to Radarr, hey Radarr, from now on, I want you to grab all the SD TVs, okay? And I'll call it SD TV. And I hit save and I try to search in Radarr, and Radarr goes through every title. Radarr is not going to erase my 1080p files because look, they're above SDTV, even though they're not checkmarked as wanted. And that's kind of a confusing thing because I didn't understand why would that be important? Why is that important? I really don't understand. And even now I'm a little, as I'm explaining this to you guys, I'm still trying to think of an imaginary example where you would want to do that. But let's say ideally it's easy if you have a really low quality copy and you have anything above SDTV check. Let's say your current library is S standard definition. Well, if you have any of these checked, Radarr will grab it, no problem, right? Because it's above whatever you have in your library. But let's say, for example, I don't know, you want to downgrade. Let's say you just have a bunch of files that are, Blu-ray discs, okay? And you have a bunch of Blu-ray discs, but you're like, okay, I don't want those anymore. I just want the Blu-ray 1080p copies. That's where, I think this whole paragraph of the order listed in the profile matters, even if a quality is not checked, because it's very confusing. Because Then it's like, okay, you should drag down your Blu-ray disc thing down. And so what you're telling Radarr is, hey, no matter, even if I have a super high quality Blu-ray disc, or even if I have 2160p copies of whatever, I want you to treat Blu-ray 1080p like the highest thing, and I want it. That's the check mark. That's what that means. So that's if you wanted to downgrade. You see what I'm saying? And that's really where that whole thing makes sense, because for 1080p to drag it all the way up, it's like, why do I need to do that? And so for me, a more relevant example that maybe perhaps you guys might understand a little better, though this is something that perhaps you shouldn't do, but this is something I do. My 4K library, let's take a look at this for a second. My 4K library is considered, okay, I want 2160p, I want Web 2160 or HDTV, right? It's 4K only. So my current 4K library is full of remixes. So if we click 1917 here, you will see, well, actually, let's refresh and scan that here. I believe this one is, yep, there we go, remix. You see that? Sorry, I need to update all of these. Sorry about that, guys. But it's a remix, right? Remix 2160p by Framestore. If I were to take this profile, okay, and I were to follow kind of what this is saying, right? If I were to follow this logic of drag everything that you want to the top, what do you think will happen to all my remixes, right? What do you guys think will happen? I drag it all the way to the top, and let's say this is also check marked. What do you think is going to happen? So it will remove the remixes. Does that make sense? Because I'm telling it, hey, I want Blu-ray as the ultimate for this library. It doesn't matter I have remix and I check that check mark that I want it. You will get rid of any and all remixes to get Blu-ray 2160p, which is a lossy. It's not a lossless remix, right? So then Radarr will start deleting those remixes and trying to replace it with Blu-ray 2160p. And that's why in my profile here, I didn't drag all of them to the top. But if I was following the trash guide, he tells you, hey, drag all these above all the other stuff. The reason I don't want to do that, and I'll explain my logic. Currently, a lot of my entire library is 4K Ultra HD, raw copies, remixes, all of them. Every single thing is a remix. So Talk to Me is also a remix. Everything is a remix. I want to make it that if there's a movie that, let's say, I do want the 4K of, but not necessarily, I don't really care that much about the movie, because, you know, you might be thinking, hey, well, why would you have a movie that you don't care about? Well, what if your family member cares about it, but you don't? And they don't really care about remix, right? So I want to make it so that I can download 2160p movies, but for certain movies that, you know, I really want, I can override it and grab a remix from time to time, you know, as a one-off. So that's the whole point there. This is something I really wanted to touch upon with Trash Guide, because I wasn't able to touch upon that in the trash video. So again, just wanting to explain what that, you know, the profiles card can be it can be a really confusing place when you're kind of new to Trash Guide. So just a little tip for you guys there.